All right, after a week off, we're back. It's a wrestling perspective. Petey Williams, Dennis Farrell here. Pete, we are off what they are calling one of the greatest pay-per-views of the year, Slammiversary. You guys really deliver big time.
Well, how's she going, eh?
Listen, I'm sorry I skipped that. We have very limited time this week. You were on your way to a function right now, so we're just trying to cram the show in. But doing good. How about you?
Good. Let's cut the small talk. Like people, I think people like when we small talk, though. I think that's part of it. But anyways, Slammiversary. Let's talk about it.
We'll fit small talk in during the Blue Chew ad.
Yeah, that's okay. Sure.
Slammiversary, one of the listen. Everywhere I read, the dirt sheets, the reviewers, they were all raving about how great Slammiversary was.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I shouldn't say tough, like to live up to, because if you remember last year's Slammiversary, that was known as like, and that was in Toronto, like, oh my God, that was off the charts. That was like kind of like our reset where people are like, wow, Impact can deliver. Since we've had that bad taste in our mouth since like, when we switched over from TNA to Impact and all that. But yeah, I think the card top to bottom was great. And I thought the way the lineup was, like each match built upon other matches. Some matches I thought like, they might be okay. They exceeded my expectations. Matches that I thought were going to be excellent were excellent. I mean, it doesn't. Everything delivered. I don't even know what to say.
Here's for me, watching the pay-per-view, I thought it was phenomenal. My one worry going into the pay-per-view was the intergender match between Sami Callihan and Tessa Blanchard. I'll be honest with you, I am not an intergender fan. I don't know if it's just because of I don't like it or it hasn't been done right. And I definitely hate online where, at least right now, the narrative is if you don't like intergender wrestling, then you're a misogynist or you're behind the times. You almost are getting bullied into liking this kind of match. Look, I don't like hardcore wrestling either. I don't like a ton of blood in my wrestling. So I'm a very picky, not that I can look past and move on. I'm just picky in what I like, and I don't want to be bullied into liking something because that's the trend. I love women's wrestling. Intergender, it's tough, but this match sold it to me. During this match, if I were to close my eyes and listen to the commentary, I would have thought both competitors were, and I hate to say it like this, but male wrestlers. I mean, it was phenomenal.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And what I really liked about it is, it wasn't a typical Sami Callihan match. It wasn't a typical Tessa match. It was like they just told such a good story in that ring. Like, I'm just so proud of them both. I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like, and the thing is, we're going to look back on this in like 20 years from now, and intergender wrestling is going to be like, it's not going to be the hot topic. I think it's just going to be part of wrestling, just kind of like how hardcore matches now, they were the hot topic back, in the 90s or whatever. Now it's just, okay, yeah, it's hardcore wrestling. Same thing's going to happen with intergender until the next fad comes along. It's going to be a part of wrestling as we know it. Like when our kids grow up and our age, they're going to be like, oh yeah, male and females wrestle each other all the time. I don't remember when they never used to do it. But yeah, and even, I mean, okay, so intergender match, great. I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm watching it and they told it. And then Tessa hits a neck breaker, a simple neck breaker, a move that's been around for decades. And the place goes nuts when she hits it. I'm like, see, this is storytelling. I mean, they don't need to do all this crazy stuff. People are just so into it. They were so behind Tessa and they were so against Sami. It was great.
I wish I could pinpoint and better put into words what's lacking, and maybe and I'm putting this under a big umbrella. There have been phenomenal matches that I may not have seen, and if that's the case, I apologize. But from the intergender wrestling I've seen, it just doesn't. look believable. I don't know if it's the talent in the ring or how the creative or the agents put the match together. But this match from the bell to bell, amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, I totally agree. And some, like, when you probably first saw intergender wrestling, you were probably like, it was probably a female, like, just knocking around four dudes, lifting them up, doing all these power moves and stuff. And you're like, well, this doesn't make sense. I mean, she can't do that unless he helps her jump. Like, he's 300 pounds and she's 110 pounds. Like, this doesn't even make sense in real life. And then you take the realism out of it, even though, you know, wrestling is a world of make-believe, we'll say. You still want to have people suspend their belief a little bit, but not too much, right? You don't want to insult the fans. And that match did not insult the fans. You could be like, yeah, you know, Tessa almost pulled that one out. And she did. So, I mean, the crowd loved it. I think the people watching at home loved it. I loved it. You loved it. I haven't really heard any bad things about it.
You know, during that pay-per-view, a masked wrestler shows up, did some stuff that looks eerily familiar to another wrestler, which we'll probably talk about here in a second. The news is out. It's all over the internet. Do you want to talk about it?
Sure. What do you think, Dennis? You don't know anything. I didn't talk to you about her or tell you anything. What's your speculation? What do you think the real, like, what really happened?
What my guess?
Yes, your guess.
I look from everything I read on the internet, which, you know, spoiler alert coming up. It was Rhino, right?
Okay. I mean, if that's what everybody wants to believe, they could believe it. I mean, I'm not going to say yes or no. We'll just have to see when this masked wrestler unveils, I guess.
It was exciting for me, by the way, to see that, because I love a good masked wrestler storyline. It gets me every time. Good, bad, or indifferent. There are certain things that I watch, and you know what's coming. You know, wrestling is like movies, like soap operas. Storylines get regurgitated. Sometimes it gets deformed and changed around. But, you know, when you have the masked wrestler or a whodunit storyline with like a killer cross, I absolutely love that stuff. I am hook, line, and sinker every time for that.
Yeah, and I mean, I like whodunit storylines. I mean, nobody saw a Killer Cross be introduced to a new character. You know, a lot of people are speculating, oh, it's Rhino. Maybe people are speculating, oh, maybe it's a new character. What's good is that person, it kind of already sets the storyline. Like, he went after, maybe it's he or she. Oh, went after Michael Elgin after, you know, their phenomenal match. Let's talk about that. You know, so you almost know, like, whoever this masked wrestler is has some beef with Elgin. Stay tuned.
That whatever you guys are going to do with that, I'm excited for this. What was the atmosphere like before the pay-per-view started?
I think the same as any pay-per-view. We were excited. We wanted to put on the best show. I mean, we were in Texas. I mean, we were all just there was really no complaints. I mean, everybody just did their part, and nobody. We're all just there to put on the best show. I mean, I don't know how to tell you, but this locker room is one of the best locker rooms I've been in. When it comes to, like, just talent and those that want to go out and perform and not just, like, phone it in or anything like that. And I've been in a lot of different types of locker rooms, but this locker room's top notch. I got to give it to, you know, Scott and Don for putting this talent, you know, list together of who they think should be on our roster. And I got to give it to the talent too, because they go out there and they just perform constantly at like 110%. And they always deliver. I mean, just if you look at the opening match, the X Division match, I mean, that was phenomenal. And they didn't do anything too crazy, but it set the mood for the night. And then you had the tag team match, which we had. I mean, I love that the North won the titles 2 days before, and then were forced to defend them on the pay-per-view. So that was good storyline telling. I like when stuff like that happens. because that match wasn't even advertised. It was advertised against LAX and Rascals. So that was cool. You know, even the the female Monster Ball match. I mean, I saw Rosemary get curb stomped into a thumbtacks.
Oh.
I mean, that was just, yeah. And like Sue Young got like whatever it was, a piece of paper stapled to her head. I mean, those girls are hardcore, man. Even RVD and Moose's match, you know, I don't think anybody saw Moose pulling out the victory, but he did.
You know,
And
I got to interrupt you here because from top to bottom, this was a very imaginative card. But you said something that resonates with me. When we go into a pay-per-view, right, and it's like, let me try to set the table. Let's say the pay-per-view is 2 weeks away, and a guy has a match next week, and it's always like, you know, next Sunday he'll defend it against blah, 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 but he has to get past this guy. And everybody knows 9.99% of the time, he's going to get past whatever match he has on that week to go into the pay-per-view and defend it as the match that was advertised. So when you see that kind of stuff happen with the North, it excites me also.
Yeah, I mean, I love stuff like that because I think originally, you know, the idea was set, you know, how the pay-per-view, how you saw it, that's how it was set. And then you kind of build towards it and you're like, oh, what can we do different? You know, because you want to be different. You want to be, you know, you just don't want the same thing. Like, oh yeah, these guys, you know, we have this Impact Plus, you know, now that we have Impact Plus where we have like monthly specials on our Impact app. We want people to tune in, right? We want people like that. That should feel like a big special as well. And you saw your first title change on one, right? So, and I think there was multiple title matches on that show. I think Brian Cage and Moose. We had the tag title. So just to see the title change, people are like, oh man, wow, okay. And I don't think there was any title changes at the actual pay-per-view. Everybody kept their titles. So we're just really trying to make the Impact Plus app like just as special as watching our pay-per-view or our TV show.
They're doing a good job of it, very much so. Everybody keeps talking about the Impact Plus and how awesome of an app it is. It's slowly getting started. You guys are adding new content. And talking about, you know, Impact Plus and TV stuff, how many people came up to you during the pay-per-view and asked you if, look, you don't know anything when it comes to this stuff. We've covered it a million times. But the rumors that came out that you guys may be moving over to AXS, how many wrestlers talked to you? How many wrestlers were at least excited about the idea of that move?
I mean, I think people are excited. Anytime there's a move, whether it's, you know, even when we went from Pop to the Pursuit channel, it seemed kind of exciting. I'm like, this is new ground that we've never covered before. But, you know, and I don't want to bash Pursuit. I'm not here to bash anything. But, you know, when people, like, tag me on Twitter and say, like, hey, man, why are you guys showing a rerun of last week or whatever? Or why isn't this on? Or there was no main event. It went dark or went to the next show. I'm like, man, that we can't have that stuff if we want to build our product. Like, we as a company don't deserve that. The fans that watch the show don't deserve it. So no matter where we end up landing, it's going to be good.
Yeah, I think so too. And if it's true, which I don't know, I know what I read. You don't know because you're not part of that aspect of Impact. I mean, you do part of the booking meetings, you do the agent stuff, but the TV, the contract, that kind of stuff is a different department for Impact. You're not part of it, so I don't want anybody to think that you're confirming or denying any kind of rumors out there.
No, I'm not confirming or denying anything. I'm pretty much putting out there like what people have experienced, and you know, wherever we land, whether it's still on Pursuit or maybe we'll just be all Twitch and Impact Plus, or who knows.
I'll tell you, the AXS move would be phenomenal for you guys. New Japan's on there. They have some amazing programming. I hope it works out that this move does happen.
I mean, the first time I watched AXS, actually, because I think it's on, what did I have? Some sort of cable network. And I'm like, oh, what is this AXS show? Because like, or channel, I should say. And then I heard that New Japan was on it, and then that's when I actually started watching it. Like, I don't know, like through maybe 3 years ago or something. Whenever they got their contract there, and I'm like, back when AJ was still working on the show and everything. But yeah, and I watched. I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm like, the AXS. I've never even heard of it. So it brings wrestling does bring new viewers to new markets, to new channels, and all that kind of stuff. So whether we're on AXS or another show, or I mean, you never heard of Pursuit before we went on Pursuit, right?
No.
I didn't.
No, I don't know if anybody did.
I know a lot. I don't think anybody did, but now people know about Pursuit because of professional wrestling and Impact.
Yeah. Well, I hope it's true, because you guys deserve, at least, look, Pursuit's good. I'm not knocking Pursuit. You guys have had a lot of road bumps there, but man, AXS, I think, would be invigorating. That's the second time I've used this word this show.
Wow.
I think that move to something with New Japan, who, you know, despite what people say, I know New Japan and Ring of Honor lost a lot of luster when AEW came around and took a lot of their top talent. But still, to me, New Japan is up there on the world stage as a top wrestling promotions.
Yeah, I agree. Well, definitely a top in Japan, I would say. But that's the thing. Like, you look at AEW, they're a new company, and they built it on social media. They use social media. Like, when companies like, Impact or Ring of Honor or whoever else, when they started up, there was no social media, so they couldn't use that. So, but New Japan's actually, I think they became more popular in the United States because of social media. You can watch the GIFs and all that kind of stuff, and they have a lot more gaijin over there that people know in the U.S. So they did a good job with that. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, Dennis. But yeah, I agree with you.
Well, thanks, man. Outside of that, let's talk about you being there, because last year I was at the Slammiversary with you. Phenomenal venue in Toronto. Talk about a little bit of the differences between the Toronto venue and the Texas venue.
Well, in Toronto, I actually wrestled that one. I remember
you took over for Rich Swann, who was injured, right?
Yes, Rich Swann was injured, so I had to take over for that. So I was all behind the scenes now. I wasn't in front of the crowd, and I didn't really get a chance to go out there and look because I was running back and forth and all that stuff. But the crowd was into it, though, from what I heard. Maybe it's something about Slammiversary. I don't know if we're just good luck with it or whatever the case may be, but the venue was, I think NXT runs there. It's called Gillies, because I remember we saw a poster in the back of all the bands that have played there and all that stuff, and there was an NXT poster that was signed, and I think it was marked 2017. So I'm saying the guys like TJP or Madman Fulton, I'm like, hey, you need to sign that. You need to sign that because some of these guys worked for NXT during that time. But it was a really cool venue. Yeah. It's I don't even know how to describe it. I think it's multiple venues into one. I don't know if there's a movie theater in there as well. It's this huge, size of a mall, I would say, maybe a small mall. So, but I thought it was good. I mean, we have I don't know if I talked about this last time, but we have a new director, Dave Sahadi. Did we talk about this a couple weeks ago?
Well, you talked about the change, but you haven't talked about his style. I guess let's talk about the difference in styles with the new director and the old director who left for AEW.
Well, the director, our producer, there's a difference.
Okay.
Producer and a director. The producer left for AEW, so now the guy that directed switched over to our producing, and now our director now is Dave Sahadi, who used to work for WWE. We had him. I remember I first met him in 2000 and I don't know, 4 or 5, something like that. He was the director at Impact for the longest time. Really good. He currently directs for MLW as well. So he directs for both. I guess he has that agreement. But Dave Sahadi is really good. He understands wrestling. And, he turned to me. I remember I was first match and he says, P, just FYI, The camera guys are relatively newer when it comes to wrestling, and I'm like, I kind of gave him a look, but Dave's like, don't worry, man, I got it, and he did. I mean, Dave can. Dave's just so good, and we have limited camera and stuff, like cameras and all that stuff, but he makes it work, and he's one of the, if not the best in this business.
That's awesome that you guys, it feels like I was watching the show. It had a different feel to it. Do you guys think, this is just me musing around here, but Slammiversary could turn into your marquee pay-per-view? I know right now Bound for Glory is kind of your WrestleMania, but I really feel like the way the last couple of years for Slammiversary's been, that Slammiversary is slowly becoming Impact's marquee pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we put on the best shows when it comes to Slammiversary. I mean, I think we'll always push. And here's the thing, okay? Let's go to WWE for a second. You know, WWE's marquee pay-per-view is WrestleMania. When was the last time you thought WrestleMania was their best pay-per-view of the year? It's probably been a long time, right?
It might have been, what was the WrestleMania in San Francisco that was kind of outdoors a few years ago, where Seth Rollins cashed in the Money in the Bank in the main event versus Roman Reigns?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so maybe that was their best pay-per-view of the year, but like this year, it probably wasn't. Like, so it could be this. I think Bound for Glory will always be our marquee pay-per-view. Like, this is our WrestleMania, if you want to give that analogy. But it doesn't necessarily going to mean that it's going to be our absolute best pay-per-view. We're going to line it up that way. But, you know, sometimes when things have so much hype behind it, it kind of falls flat. People expect too much, just like the Super Bowl. Are we allowed to say that? That's trademark. The big football game that everybody talks about. That's not usually the best football match of the entire year. That's for sure. I mean, I remember when New England won in overtime, I think 2 years ago. That was a good matchup, but usually it's a blowout or people don't even care about it.
No, I agree with that. That's a good analogy. For you, how harder is it now? You're getting older, and you've talked about how you're comfortable with your role of wrestling less and kind of easing into a producer role. Is it still hard, at least on the big marquee pay-per-views, not to suit up and be out there?
Yeah, I'd say it's I mean, it's tough, especially like, you know, you got these big shows and I'm like, oh, I'd love to be out there and do that. But again, I mean, I like what I do behind the scenes. I really do. And even though I want to be a part of it, that means that I'm taking a spot from somebody else. But man, part of me just wants to go out there and be like, yeah, let me hit a Canadian Destroyer on somebody, or let me go out there and have like a great match or whatever the case may be. Yeah, of course. I mean, I love wrestling. I've almost been doing it for 20 years now. It's just part of my blood. So, I mean, you got to give it up sometime, but why not be in wrestling and being a part of the show, but not actually wrestling? And that way you can, you know, it's kind of, you're still living your dream, but not really, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense.
You know, it's funny because I still remember we launched the show. Well, it was 6-8 months into the show when Scott D'Amore started kind of calling you to see if you had any interest in coming back. You were on the fence about it, but we kept talking, and ultimately we seen you pop back up, and afterwards we would still talk, and you were like, you know, this is only going to be probably for a month. And here we are now, what, 2 years later?
Yeah, I think I came back in August of 2017 to Impact, and maybe end of July 2017 for Tommy Dreamer and House of Hardcore. It's been 2 years. I thought this was going to be like a 1 month thing. I really did.
And here you are. And would you ever have imagined when you came back, you know, what was it, Bound for Glory when you showed up?
No, it was, I think Destination X. I helped Sanjay Dutt win it was a ladder match for the X Division title. I helped him retain the X Division title, I remember. And then at Bound for Glory, I had that big 6-man in Ottawa for the X Division title. But yeah, man, I really didn't think I'd be this far away. 2 years.
Would you have ever thought that you would be in this role as a producer, booker, backstage guy?
No, absolutely not. I thought I was going to be wrestling. And I remember the first time, what was the match? It was like, man, Matt Sydal versus somebody. And D'Amore said, because I told him, I said I'd be interested in doing some producing and stuff. And he said, hey, this Sydal match, this next one is, or I have the Matt Sydal whatever match. Can you be on headset for it? I go, yeah, sure. When is it up? And he goes, next. I said, you got about 4 minutes before the next match ends. And I'm like, next? So it's kind of like sink or swim right there. So I got with him really quick and just to get some main bullet points for the match. And I got on a headset. And I remember the director yelling at me, going like, I didn't know that was coming out. I'm like, dude, I didn't know either. I'm sorry. Like I didn't, but I made it through and, obviously gotten a lot better since then. And, even doing live TV as opposed to taped TV is a lot tougher too, because if you miss a camera shot, there's no going back. You miss a camera shot, you can't fix it in post is what we would say. And even like doing instant replays and all that kind of stuff. I like to call like, all right, show an instant replay here and all that kind of stuff. Now would be a good time. And I never thought I'd be doing this ever or have this much knowledge of the behind the scenes work.
Before we continue, we got to do a couple plugs here. First and foremost, I guess since we're talking about Impact, I have to plug my new podcast I'm doing with one of your coworkers, Dave Chris, called Wrestling with Sports. I know you haven't had a chance to listen. You're a busy guy, but did you say hi to Dave?
I did say hi to Dave. I hung out with him, and that's about it.
Did he say anything about our podcast? If he didn't, make it up and lie.
Yeah. He said he really enjoys doing the podcast, and that's all he said.
I don't know if.
And he said you're awesome. You said you're awesome, and you should be podcasting. You should be an anchor on like a network television show. That's what he said. That's how good you are.
So hang on now. Now I really don't know if you're lying or telling the truth. That's good. That's a good one.
Yeah.
You're going to have to tell me off the air because now I'm like, did he really? No, he never put me over like that. Anyways, Wrestling with Sports, Dave Chris from OVE, myself, Jason Kindle, 15-year MLB vet, 3-time All-Star. Listen, it's a fun show. We talk wrestling, we talk sports, whole different thing. Go to WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. You can listen there. Wherever you get your podcasts, go find Wrestling with Sports, subscribe, rate, whether you like it or not, give us 5 stars. I don't care. See that? Is that a good sell job? I don't care. Just do it.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because I was chit-chatting with this other guy. He has a podcast of like... Are
you cheating on me?
No. I wasn't talking about it because, it's something I know nothing about. It was like four-wheeling or something. I think it's something related to that. And he's like, yeah, I got a podcast. Yeah, we talk about four-wheeling, and I got some sponsors, blah, 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 blah. And he says, what's your podcast name? I said, The Wrestling Perspective. He's like, yeah, I'll go there. Give it 5 stars. What the heck, man? And I'm like, yeah, anybody, give it 5 stars.
There we go. That's how I like my podcast listeners. Sheepish. You be a sheep, do whatever I tell you. I love it.
5 stars.
5 stars. Hey, Blue Chew, look, usually, Pete, we do these ads and we're talking about the person in bed, right?
Yeah.
I think this week's ad, we talk about the other person. Listen, is your boyfriend not so good in bed? Is your girlfriend? Oh. Yeah. You like what I'm doing here?
Mm-hmm.
You like it? Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to be with a 2-pump chump. Nobody wants to do it in a squash match. You get in, you stretch, you're ready to go. 1, 2, 3. We're talking Clash of the Champions, Lex Luger, pin in like 6 seconds. Nobody wants that in the bed. And if your lover is that way, I don't care if it's your boyfriend or your significant other, your spouse. Hey, it could be your mistress. What's the male version of mistress?
Mister?
Your mister. There we go. Today it's called mister.
Yeah.
Your married friend that you have sex with. There we go.
Yeah.
But you want it to be better. You think he's cool, but you're not really ready to ditch a relationship because the sex sucks. Let's be honest. Go to BlueChew.com. Use the promo code Perspective. Get your first order for free. PD will give you the first order for free. He'll do anything for love, but guess what he won't do?
I won't do that.
Cover shipping and handling.
Yeah, that's right. You got to pay the $5 shipping and handling. I don't mess with the post office and what they do. I would email it to you if I could, but we haven't figured that out yet. So you have to pay $5 shipping and handling. Just use the promo code Perspective.
That's right. Done. It's made with the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so you know it works. It's made in America, so it's cheaper. You can get it online, so there's no awkward doctor visits. Listen, remember that time you made me dress up with the nurse, like a nurse, and examine you, and it was a little bit awkward, but I got through it because we were friends. You know, I'd do anything for you. And
role playing.
Yeah. And it was a little awkward, and in the middle of it, you go, you know, if this was Blue Chew, we wouldn't be this awkward right now.
No, I mean, I would just role play with a computer and just press order for free. And yeah, $5 shipping and handling, put in your code. Okay, good. And we're good.
Just like that. So go to Blue Chew, get it, give it to your spouse. Don't let him have another bedroom session that's disappointing for you, because and I'm talking to the significant other. I don't care what kind of relationship you're in, but don't let him ruin your night one more time. It's an epidemic that is plaguing the United States right now, and Blue Chew is doing what it can to put a stop to this, but we need your help. And we're doing our part. We're giving you a free sample. Don't let this epidemic tear families apart. Don't do that. Stand up for your sexual relationship and say, you know what? From here on out, I'm taking back what used to be good and make it good. Make bedroom sex good again.
Great again.
Great again.
My favorite line was the 2-pump chump. That's great.
You like that one?
Yeah, that was my favorite.
All right, so go to BlueChew.com, use the promo code Perspective. Look, you know, it helps pay the bills here, and you make us happy. You'll make you happy, and maybe one day, Pete, we'll like auction off, like you and I, we could commentate someone's bedroom escapades as like wrestling commentators.
Oh man, we got to do that.
Wouldn't that be great? We could bring in a referee. And like when someone's on their back, like he's 1, 2, and like in the middle they have to kick out.
Yeah, and then the ref gets like knocked, ref bump, you know, and then that's when the Blue Chew comes in, and then it's like, oh my god, the ref didn't see him take the Blue Chew. Oh, it's gonna be over now, like, you know.
Oh, unless there's like a Bella situation where one of them rolls out and the other one rolls in to take over.
Oh, like the switcheroo. Yes. We need twins for that one. Yeah.
Oh, either that or the what was the El Matador? No, it wasn't the El Matadors. I don't remember.
Like a masked person, yes. The Conquistadors. Yeah.
There it is, the Conquistadors. See?
This is good. See, you can relate wrestling to everything in your life. Everything.
That's how sad I am. All right, let's get back to some. Look, I had a great weekend, by the way. I was bummed that I couldn't go out to Dallas and hang out with you, but I was in Cleveland for. Here's a story I'll tell you, and you'll be a little jealous, you being a music guy. Did I send you the picture?
Which one? You sent me a bunch of pictures.
Oh, I didn't then. So,
the REM dude?
Yes.
Yeah, man, I love REM.
Who doesn't? So. Here's the story. I'm in town, Cleveland, covering the Major League Baseball All-Star game. I had media credentials, and me and my friend, we were downtown, and we go, let's go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So we pull up. By the way, phenomenal. But we pull up, and I'm like, I'm never really super cheap. I mean, how many times have you ever really had to reach for your wallet when you're with me?
Never.
That's right. So I'm not I'm not super cheap. But this story is going to make me sound super cheap. I go, you know, if it's more than $20, I don't want to get in. I'm not going to pay, because we had probably 3 hours between some free time and having to be there to interview Mike Trout, who's a baseball player, if you don't know that. So we walk into the atrium, and it's beautiful, amazing, it's big. and it's $26 a person. I said, nah, I'm out. And as we are turning around, this lady comes up to us and goes, are you guys VIPs? And I look at her, I go, I'm with MLB Media. She goes, oh, so you are. Come on over here. And she's putting these wristbands, and we had our own personal tour for free. All this for free, by the way. Our own personal, yeah. I know. We're just like, what's going on here, And we had a personal tour. It was phenomenal. We turned the corner, and there's Mike Mills from REM just standing there, and we're like, what the hell is? Oh my God!
Does he live there or something?
No. So I'll tell you here in a sec. So we walk up and we talk to him, and we talked to him for about 25 minutes. Amazing guy, very engaging, huge baseball fan, massive. He has a side band called the Baseball Project, and they do a lot of baseball-themed stuff. It's him, another guitarist for REM, some guy, Mike Wynn from, I want to say either Dream Theater or Dream Syndicate, I think it is. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. I didn't up until this weekend. And,
I heard of Dream Theater. Okay. All right, go on.
And then a female drummer who was phenomenal, very nice herself. And, got the picture with Mike. We talked to him, and they went out and did a couple sets. It was just the most amazing time there at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. One of my favorite places now.
I mean, that probably would have never happened to you if it wasn't like All-Star Weekend. Like, they were like, oh, you're VIPs, come on in. And then you get to see all this. Like, I mean, that's stuff that you don't hear of every day. That's almost like you showing up at like Impact or something. You're like, hey, are you VIPs? Oh, come on in. Let's meet everybody. Hey, have a private wrestling show and, private everything. We're going to train you and all that stuff. Yeah. Doesn't happen in real life.
No, it especially doesn't happen to me, by the way.
I guess it did. It did now.
It was great. So I was bummed out that I didn't get to, be at that pay-per-view with you. But, the MLB All-Star Game comes into a close second.
Yeah, I mean, very, very, very close second, I would say. But, I wish you would have chose Impact. But it is what it is. There's always next pay-per-view, which will be Bound for Glory in Chicago.
Ooh, is it? Are you flying to Chicago or are you driving?
Wow, good question.
Because here's the deal. You listen, we're doing some inside baseball. We're doing some housekeeping here. So you, the fans, get to hear a conversation Petey and I normally would have over the phone where I go, hey, Pete, maybe you should drive so we can go together. And you'll be like, oh, my days of driving are over. I'm flying if they give me that option.
No, hold on. You said drive to Philly with me, and I'm like, oh, you're out of your mind. I made that drive before. I mean, that's a tough drive, but Chicago, that's right around the corner. It would be the same amount of time if I left my house, got to the airport, went through security, sat on the runway, got on the plane, flew there, departed, found an Uber. It'd be the same amount of time as if I hopped in my car and went and parked at the venue. It would probably equate to the same amount of time.
So, Chicago, what's the date?
Oh, is it October 20th? Okay. I believe it's October 20th.
Well, I mean, that's around my birthday, November 12th.
Oh, yeah. And I don't know where our shows are in November. I think we have stuff coming up in obviously Windsor next weekend, and I think I'm trying to remember we're going back to Mexico, the usuals like Vegas, Chicago's Bound for Glory. Obviously we'll probably be back in Toronto sometime soon. Just making a loop again.
We're gonna do this again, I think, and it worked out amazing. It wasn't the last time, but it was it was a Toronto show, so I don't know if it'll work well in Windsor. But if you're listening to this, and you have it, make a sign that says Wrestling Perspective. And if you have that sign and you show us or take a picture or tweet us or email us, we'll make sure you'll get a couple extra minutes before or after the show, probably after because it's busy time for Pete. If you stick around for after the show, he'll come up, take pictures, sign some autographs, talk with you one-on-one as a thank you for supporting the podcast and the time it took to make the sign.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember we did that in Toronto. It worked very well. We had a bunch of signs out there. One was like right opposite the hard cam, so like it was on every entrance. The guy had it out there, and what was good is that time we filmed 4 weeks of TV. So for 4 weeks, it's just the wrestling perspective all over Impact Wrestling. So that's great.
If you people listening over at Fightful haven't heard any of our earlier shows, it's a great story. By the way, Fightful.com. It's been breaking news for 3+ years. Phenomenal site. Go to Fightful Select. It brings you dozens of podcasts, everything from 205 Live to NXT, NXT UK, Impact, Ring of Honor, New Japan, AEW. They have Q&A shows. They have alternative dark matches and commentaries. Breaking news, go to Fightful.com. Sign up for the Select. I'm a member of it. And we're our show, you get it a day early over at Fightful.com. And we're do that on the free site because we're just glad to be part of a great site. Anyways, if you're over at Fightful in the first few shows, part of the story is the first taping night they had to sign it. It was these shiny letters, but you couldn't see it on TV. And I think half jokingly, Pete goes, boy, if you guys switch those letters out for flat white, it'd show up a lot better on TV. And this couple shows up the next day. They're out of town, drove all around Toronto trying to find a CVS to get the materials to cut it out. I mean, they went above and beyond. And I think that night, as a thank you, and this is how much we love our fans. Look, we broke one of the cardinal rules of Backstage just to say thank you to our fans, that we got them a program and had a couple of people we knew personally that we didn't feel like we would be putting them out to ask them to do this, sign this program for them. But, you know, I don't know how many podcasts out there would do something like this for their fans.
I'd say zero. There might be a couple that, you know, we don't know of. But, yeah, I mean, we'll go above and beyond. I have no problem. I mean, I always have time for fans. I mean, it's especially somebody that, you know, I mean, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, that kind of thing. I mean, it's still beyond me that I could sign a piece of paper and people would be like, oh my God, I cherish this. Like, that's still beyond my belief. And if I can like ask a couple of my friends, be like, hey, can you sign this piece of paper or this program, this booklet that we have pictures in for these people? Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I'll do it.
Let me ask you this. I'm at the game, MLB All-Star game, on the field, media credentials, and kind of like an Impact, you have people that won some contests or some VIPs walk through, get to see a little bit of the inside baseball. On the field, they kind of have the same thing where, you know, they're restricted to a little bit of box, but they're on the field kind of back behind the media. One of the guys kind of snuck out and came around the corner, and there was a ball player standing in front of us talking with another ball player on the field. And this guy just keeps yelling the guy's last name over and over and over. Let's say it was Mike Trout. So the guy's like, Trout, 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 like a barking dog over and over and over again. He ignores it. Hang on, take a swig. He ignores it, keeps talking to the guy. And the digital media guy for the Angels is standing next to me. So Trout gets done talking and walks away. And the guy starts going, Mike Trout, Mike Trout, Mike, Trout, 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 Trout. Keeps going. Mike stops for the digital media guy to do something for their Facebook page. The guy keeps barking at him. And Mike walks right by this guy and just says, I got to go to work, right? My question to you is, A, how many times has something happened like that? And what's your protocol as a entertainer? And B, when you are out in the ring performing, do you still hear the crowd? Do you still hear people yelling smart comments or anything like that?
It's tough. If they're loud enough, yes. If there's like if the rest of the crowd's loud, I don't hear it. It's all kind of like backdrop noise or whatever. It all depends. And I've had that before where people like heckle you. I just don't let it bother me. I mean, they paid the money. They can heckle if they want. So be it. But, you know, usually if people are like, hey, Petey, I want an autograph. Yeah, I'll do it. But I mean, you know, if he's Mike Trout, like that's a different story. And I don't know how many people were there. like in that VIP section that we're asking for autographs. But usually if you're in the VIP section, I know what we do at Impact. If you win the VIP or you sign up for the VIP package, we actually do that after the show. We sign autographs for them and all that kind of stuff. So if you're an Impact fan and ever want to sign up for the VIP packages, you get to hang out after the show and meet the wrestlers.
Okay. Well, there you go. Pete, time to promote. What do you have going on?
You know, I think we already said it all. If you haven't seen Slammiversary yet, I encourage you to watch it. I feel like it was by far our best pay-per-view of the year so far. And a lot of people are putting that up there with like one of the best wrestling pay-per-views so far this year. So watch that. We're very proud of it. And then, you know, we have our TV tapings coming up in Windsor next Friday and Saturday, which I think is, what is that, the 19th and 20th. So we'll be there. And so on and so forth. And you can find me on Twitter at IPDWilliams.
There you go. You can follow me at Dennis77Farrell. We're on Facebook, Wrestling Perspective. Go to WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. There you can find links. Click on the pictures, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio for this podcast. Also on that same page, you can get the links to subscribe to Wrestling with Sports. Totally different feel than this, but we still would love for you to support us. Did I forget anything?
I think you got. Did you say Fightful again? Fightful.
Go listen. We love the guys. Sean Ross Sapp. Go to Fightful if you're listening to on our regular feed. If you're listening to this on the Fightful 24 hours early, on behalf of Fightful, we thank you guys so much for supporting us and listening. Pete, let's call it a night.
Let's do that.
Good night. We'll see you guys next week.
All right.